we've been discussing to get more creative with them and the Mikey and Arman match. We're talking about it, we're discussing, we're trying to talk to them to see if it's going to happen. And same thing with Andrew, we are getting more creative with him and looking at some UFC fighters' names, and we'll see what will happen to him.
That was my next question. Arman Tsarukyan is the name that's out there. He's competing in all these wrestling events and grappling matches. Dana in Seattle this weekend, he was asked about it, and he said, if Claudia wants it to happen, she'll get it done. How close do you think we are to maybe seeing Arman compete in the bowl?
Yeah, I talked to Arman last week. He wants to do it. He said yes to the match. But he has some agreements with the UFC. He has to talk to Hunter and see when his next fight in the UFC, and then we might see that happening maybe in August, later in the year.
And then just want to touch briefly on Michael Chiesa. Obviously got a big retirement win in Seattle. He's part of the broadcast team here. He said in Seattle that he still wants to compete. He was asked about UFC BJJ specifically, but he said he didn't want to mess up his broadcasting gig because it was a very good gig. Do you think would you ever consider Michael Chiesa getting in that bowl, especially after what he just did in Seattle?
Yeah, he's amazing. He did amazing his entire career in the UFC. He's a guy that we all love, and we love his jiu-jitsu as well. Listen, I do a lot of things as well, just like him, and it's very hard to train for a competition after we have all these other responsibilities in our lives now. So if he's really serious, he would have to take the time to train and be serious about this, because as you guys can see, UFC BJJ is a different sport. You know, it's way different than the jiu-jitsu you see in regular jiu-jitsu tournaments. This is a completely different sport, and you guys were able to see that here today. We are sharpening our skills and getting better with bringing in new talent, people that really want to fight, because we see jiu-jitsu as a fight with no strikes. And if he's willing to come in here and do that, of course.
Lots of local fans, as always. One of the Canudos are on the card. I saw what appeared to be like a bus full of children come up. I don't know if that's from the gym or not. But I guess we've seen the evolution of the Apex and more fans and more seating for fans, how aggressively are you guys going to start marketing the tickets and getting a more lively experience here at the Apex for the jiu-jitsu matches?
Yeah, UFC BJJ is for the next generation of, we see all these jiu-jitsu kids now talking about our champions and getting inspired by being here one day, and I think this is our goal. We are achieving our goal. We are working really, really hard to make sure these kids are all inspired by our champions and our competitors here at UFC BJJ. And this is the new generation of jiu-jitsu competitors. And we love to see a lot of kids here, because this sport really changed lives. And being able to see us giving the fans an opportunity to see where they can be one day, where these kids can be one day, is something that inspires us. In the beginning of our thoughts with UFC BJJ, all we wanted was to grow jiu-jitsu, because it changed my life, it changed Steven's life, it changed so many lives around the world. And when you start training jiu-jitsu, it just changes you. And we want to see a lot of people changing their lives through jiu-jitsu, and UFC BJJ is kind of like the thing you look forward to be there one day as a kid, and we love to see that. So of course we will expand what we are doing here in the Apex with kids and in a lot of gyms around the world.
And that kind of leads me to my next question, talking about the growth of the sport and bringing in new fans. The UFC and Power Slap have partnered with prediction markets like Polymarket, and other leagues are fully in bed with other sports books, and it has brought new fans to the sport. When can we see some activity on that front?
Yeah, I love Polymarket. I love investing. I think UFC BJJ has the potential to be out there, and I think it's just a matter of time. If we find the right people to work with us, it's going to happen soon.
Sure, and then last one for me, recently in Quantico training FBI agents. Can you talk to us about that experience a little bit?
It was amazing. One of the best experiences in my life. Before getting into the UFC, I went to college in Brazil because I wanted to be an agent. I wanted to be in the special forces, and I ended up saying yes to women in the UFC. So that's the path I ended up following. But being able to experience some of the things I was dreaming as a kid, it was amazing, and also being able to hang out with such of a great professional team out there with the FBI was just a life-changing experience.
Was there specific moments where you actually saw the real life application of jiu-jitsu and martial arts during that training, where where agents are trained to de-escalate potentially violent situations?
Yeah, all the time. I think jiu-jitsu helped them a lot. Of course, they have weapons, they have guns, they have weapons around their body that they have to watch out for so people don't grab their weapons. But it's all about jiu-jitsu on the ground. If you know how to defend your weapon and be able to dominate somebody, it's all about jiu-jitsu on the ground. So I was able to see them, see what they train already and how much the UFC can add to their lives. And it's a lot. This is a great partnership for the FBI and for the UFC.
Hey Claudia, just to clarify, you said about possible Arman-Mikey match, but Mikey is 135, Arman is 155. So it will be a catchweight, it will be a featherweight, or how do you see it?
Yeah, it's going to be a catchweight, because Arman can't go down to 135. So probably around 170. You guys know in jiu-jitsu, smaller people can go against bigger people, and this is one of the absolute matches that we see in jiu-jitsu tournaments. Mikey has competed against way bigger opponents, and this is just one more for him. He's still a threat for Arman because Mikey is so skilled in everything he does. He has an amazing leg lock game, and something that Arman don't train all the time because he's focused in MMA. But I think it's going to be a great match. I think it's going to be very exciting for everybody, and yeah, it's going to be catchweight.
And speaking about 170, you mentioned Andrew Tackett. I asked him during the media day, and he wants to fight Arman in the UFC BJJ as well. So if both of them would like to fight Arman, who will you choose, Mikey or Andrew?
Well, I think we moved forward with Mikey and Arman now. We had conversations with the two of them. They have agreed, and we're moving on with that one now, and let's see what happens after that.
And how about match Mikey versus Andrew with 2 belts on the line?
I would like to see that.
Thank you, good luck.
Claudia, thank you for another great night. Just to follow up on the Bagner Rocha, did you by any chance get any other legend, any other, maybe not exactly active fighters, but guys who are like, okay, you know what, actually I can get in there. Did you get any weird texts or calls from guys that are like, hey, Bagner looked pretty good, I actually might want to do this now?
Yeah, they have to be wired like Wagner. Like if you put me in there, I don't think I can do what Wagner did today, And I've been retired for 5 years, right? But you have to be wired to look at jiu-jitsu like a real fight, and that's what Wagner showed in there today. At his age, he was active, throwing submissions for 3 rounds against the best in the world. And he was the only one that lasted 3 rounds with Andrew for UFC BJJ. So if we can find more legends like him, for sure.
Awesome. And last one for me, would you guys consider possibly having Justin announce the scorecards? Because sometimes those tell the story, maybe go into a little more detail when they say 29, 28, 30, 27, when something does go the distance.
Not for now.
Sorry, I do just have one quick follow-up. Specifically, you mentioned Mikey and his leg lock game. With Arman competing in the UFC, is there any hesitancy having a guy like come in there and having his leg get blown out? We asked Andrew Tackett about it yesterday, and when we asked him about the Arman match specifically, he said maybe we could put in a special rule set with no leg locks. Is that something you would consider?
This is not what UFC BJJ is about. We want one rule set, just like MMA has the MMA unified rules. We don't want to make special, we don't want to change anything we're building for specific matches. And at the end of the day, you know, Arman trains with people that throw leg locks. He'll know to tap. And Mikey, you know, we had conversations about that too. Like, don't go too hard and try to break someone's leg, you know. So I think this is something we can manage without changing what we do.
I have a quick question. Sorry, Claudia in the back. Because you were talking about the UFC fighters going up against Mikey, have you ever thought about doing the same thing with the women? You have Bia Mosquito, who was like a world champion back in the day, and also the world champion now, Mackenzie Dern, who is amazing in jiu-jitsu. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, we do. We honestly try to stay away from UFC fighters as much as we can because we are building a new sport. We don't want to depend on UFC fighters to build UFC BJJ. So we want to use them when it's right and when we need to do something creative. Because at the end of the day, it's two different sports. Mackenzie's training for MMA and Bia is training for MMA. They'll come here and it's gonna be different. It's gonna be a different sport. We saw Renato Canuto today. He just did a couple MMA fights and he comes in here to compete jiu-jitsu and it's just different. And I've done that. I know how it is. So I would say, to answer your question, I would say we'll use UFC fighters if it doesn't get on the way of UFC fights, and if we need to get creative with some of our champions that are really good here and we can't find them opponents.
And then last question for me. When do we see the expansion of the women's other weight classes?
Yeah, this is something that is challenging for us now. We tried to bring in some of the strawweights and they sit down and they have really good leg lock games, but this is not what UFC BJJ is about. We need to see action, we need to see takedowns, we need to see submissions, and if we see a weight division that, you know, has talent outside of here but can't progress in the way we do things here, we're just not going to continue. So for now, we'll keep watching more of the girls, and we'll see if it makes sense moving forward.
I kind of expect your answer, but going off the scoring thing, I know you guys didn't want to put the scoring at the end of the rounds. Is there any talks of when the referee assigns a point to make a visual motion or anything, kind of like what you see in wrestling? If he takes a takedown, he's announcing 2 points or 4 points or whatever in wrestling. It's a clear motion. Is there any thoughts of, like, as the referee is scoring this match, to visually announce it so people can kind of follow along and learn when the scoring position actually is attained as the match is going on?
Yeah, we talked about building an education component to TV. I think a lot of the people that come here and watch, they understand what's going on, and we want people to learn as well. So this is not conversations we are having now. I'm not saying we'll not do in the future, but we feel like we are growing the way we are doing things, and we want this to be instinctual. We want people to come in here and be educated about the sport. So we don't want to change it too much from what we're doing now.
You were talking about how Roche is just wired differently. Are we going to see him again, or is this a one-off?
100%. He'll come back in whatever weight division he wants to come back. He, you know, everybody said no. He said yes with a 3 weeks notice. Again, he didn't finish his match, but he's getting his full pay. And we have a show person, we have a finish person. If you finish your match, you get two checks. And he's getting his 2 checks, and he's coming back whenever he wants and in whatever weight division he wants.
And last for me, I know that the market in Brazil has sort of changed with the broadcast for the broadcast partners, but Paramount Plus is down there, but you guys have done the UFC BJJ YouTube channel. I guess, what have you guys learned from that, and has people in Brazil and just in the US been benefiting from you guys live streaming the full event on YouTube, and what's been, I guess, the general feedback of using that platform to put on your events?
Yeah, we want to grow UFC BJJ, right? So this is actually Dana's idea. He wanted to put UFC BJJ free for everybody to watch on YouTube, and I think it's a brilliant idea to grow this sport on YouTube. And when the time is right, we'll move out of YouTube.
Claudia's right here. Obviously, there's a lot of talk around Mikey, but Mikey's match against Kevin Dancer is now official for May 21st. He's a guy that maybe the MMA fans know because he has wins over Merab and Aljo and some grappling events. So, is this a guy you guys have had your eye on for a while, or how did that match come together? What do you think he can bring to the table against Mikey?
I think he has really good leg locks as well, just as Mikey. Really good leg lock defenses as well. And you know, this is Mikey's best game, and Mikey has been trying to show more of his game in here in the bowl, and we know he has so much more to show, and this is what I talk to him all the time, because everybody that trains with Mikey talks about how dominant he is, not only with leg locks, but then when he competes, you know, that's all he tends to do. So I think this is a good opportunity for him to show more of the rest of his games. He's so well-rounded and he can do so much in there, and going against a guy that can defend his leg locks so well, I think he's going to be able to show more of his game, and we'll be able to see all of Mikey here.
Claudia, just piggybacking off of what you said earlier, you don't go for the strawweights because they don't bring as much action, and that is something that UFC BJJ needs. Tonight was an amazing card, from start to finish. Would you say that this is kind of the statement in what you were looking for and what future competitors should be looking at when they want and think about coming to compete for you?
For sure. This is only event number 7, right? I'm still learning to come here and talk to you guys, and we were learning how to put on the right matches. We spend a lot of time watching jiu-jitsu competitors, trying to understand what's the best thing to do with jiu-jitsu. We meet up every week with some of the best jiu-jitsu coaches and instructors, that some of the most brilliant minds in jiu-jitsu, to understand how to make this better, how to make the product better. And I think today we were able to show that we put in this work, and we are very focused on bringing in young talent that want to come here and want to make a name for themselves, and I think we were able to show that here today.
Absolutely, it was an amazing card. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks very much, guys.